led, of course, by the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, to head to India and conduct the repatriation of the remains of the former Prime Minister. As we speak, and I'm informed that the Kenya Airways flight carrying the remains of the former Prime Minister is currently on African airspace. A few minutes ago, it was above the Indian Ocean. Right now, I think it's within the Somali airspace. It's expected to land at JKIA within the next 1 hour, an hour and a half. Yes, KQ flight 203, currently above Somali airspace. And President William Ruto is expected to be at the JKIA to receive the remains of the former Prime Minister. Other things will follow, and we'll keep updating you on that. So this is a great opportunity probably to remember the life and times. I know Bwana Mutambo said, yes, there's a politics that we will discuss and what happens next, because that's the main question many people are asking. Okay, fine, this has happened, what next? But before that, it's an opportunity, and you look at the dailies. The Daily Nation has decided to go with the reactions that Kenyans had yesterday after the shocking news was received in Kenya. The Standard, meanwhile, and I made mention of the fact that the Standard, being the oldest newspaper with a very great, one of the best libraries around, they've managed to paint a rather historical tribute of the former Prime Minister, the life and times of this gentleman, and the stories that they worked on back then. And we'll be having one of those old journalists, Maina Mwiruri, in studio later to discuss some of this. But from a younger politician, Senator Orwoba, you interacted with the former Prime Minister. There's so much that young politicians can learn from him. What's your best memory of Raila Odinga?
Oh, my best memory. I always say that every time our country has had to, deal with the dynamics of democracy, and every time we have had maybe the youth go out to demonstrate and have their voices heard, the one thing that was constant when it came to Raila Odinga is that he always put the country first. So despite whatever was happening politically. So for me, I would say when Parliament was raided, I kept on thinking, man, I don't think Raila Odinga is part of this, because from 2007, 2008, that's as far back as I can remember active politics and democracy, because that's when I really started participating. And there was always this constant theme where he was a person who would be able to say, no, okay, ODM might want this, or I personally might want this, but now we have to put the country before anything else. And I think that's the one thing that I will, that I carry with me, that, regardless of whatever situation is happening politically, as a young and upcoming politician, I have to think, okay, what's best for this country? Aside from my ambitions, aside from, my political alignments, what's really best for this country? I can't say that I interacted with Raila Odinga a lot. I think I personally met him maybe 3 times in these political setups. But there's once at Carring Club, when I was getting in and he was coming out, I remember joking and saying that one of his candidates in Kisii, so-and-so alianguka. And he also joked back and said, atawesi ulianguka, ukanominative. So, he had that kind of lightness. So he could interact with the older generation, he could interact with the younger generation. And he had an awareness that I think as a leader, his duty was also to ensure that he sort of motivates and mentors the younger politicians. I, however, must say that I wish he held the hand of, I wish he handed over. I wish politically, whatever that means, I wish he had a protege, and I wish he handed over. Okay. And I feel like that is the one thing. He mentored many people, but he just never handed over. And that, for me, that's a learning point, even in, going forward. Like, there has to be continuity in political parties, in movements, even with his legacy, yeah? I mean, we all carry the spirit of making sure that we liberate this country, but there has to be that person that, is handed over, gets the mantle and moves forward, and we say, okay, we had this leader, and, they handed over to this person. And I believe in the next couple of weeks, That's the biggest challenge that ODM as a party is going to face.
And we'll come to that conversation because what next is a big question.
Yeah.
But before that, Bwana Mutambo, I'm sure you may have personally had close proximity interactions with the former Prime Minister. What is your best memory of the gentleman? I am told he had an aura like no other, that even if he held your hands, you felt a certain way. I don't know.